Warning, this video may contain spoilers for late parts in the game. If you plan on playing this at some point, turn back now. You have been warned. Welcome to a review that's been a pretty long time coming, as I've wanted to replay this game and review it since I started working on Sonic Month back in March, but I got sidetracked and a lot of my time frames for things ended up getting shifted around, but I eventually got down to it. Not only beating this game, but finally achieving 100% completion, which this game isn't too ridiculously difficult to do it in the first place, but it put a nice little bow to the end of a game that I really liked as a child, and I think the game overall still holds up incredibly well today. Let's get to the basics. To start off, you play as Chibi Robo, essentially a little helper robot who goes around doing various things to help out the family that bought them. This includes picking up trash around the house as well as repurposing seemingly unused items such as a toothbrush into tools to assist with cleaning and just generally helping out. The various tools you can get are a spoon, a toy injector, and like I mentioned, the toothbrush. The spoon is used to dig, the injector is used to suck up water or other various liquids that you can then use to spray on things, and the toothbrush is used to clean stains. Like the real world, this one runs on moolah, and you will get this by doing many different things, including throwing away trash, talking to people under certain conditions, giving people something they want, and even as a bonus after cleaning up a good deal. The other thing that this game runs on is happy points, as the goal of all Chibi Robos is to make their family extremely happy, and in exchange, the company that created them, Citrusoft, will give battery upgrades upon entering a certain threshold. You start off the game with only 100 watts, and will need to gain more throughout the game time in order to actually be able to do a lot, as when you run out of energy, nothing extremely bad happens, and it's technically even required to do certain side missions, but you will be transported back to the Chibi House. In the Chibi House, you can actually purchase various things that will help out, such as the blaster, extra batteries, and flower seeds. I'm gonna give you a tip and say you don't need to buy any of the flower seeds except the nectar flower seed, but if you do end up growing other ones, they can be given to Miss Sanderson for some happy points. There's also something else you can buy in the Chibi House, and that is by using scrap and giving it to the Recyclotron, being able to create useful chibi ladders and bridges that will assist you in getting to hard to reach places. Along the way, you will meet the Sandersons' collection of toys which are alive, needing to help them just as much as the Sandersons need it. The story begins during Jenny's 8th birthday party with her parents and dog giving her gifts. Right off the bat, you can tell this family is a little eccentric. When it comes to the dad's turn to give his gift, the mother doubts that he even got her one until he reveals that he got her a Chibi Robo, the mom getting angry and realizing he mostly got it for himself. Chibi Robo and Telly emerge from the Chibi House and introduce themselves, and after that they start to integrate into normal life with the family, helping to throw away trash on the ground and cleaning crumbs before night falls, and Chibi Robo meets the toys of the house, who are alive for an unknown reason. As he gets to know the toys and family, he realizes that each are going through many problems, from unrequited love between toys to major money issues for the family. Eventually, Chibi Robo hears a startling noise coming from the basement, where he finds a giant robot at the bottom, out of commission. A toy named Captain Plankbeard explains that this is a Giga Robo. Telly tells you that Giga Robo is a much older model of Chibi Robo, learning that around the time they came out there was an energy crisis. Giga Robos were already taking a lot of energy, and the Sandersons tried to work with it for as long as they could before they couldn't afford to keep on charging his battery. This led him to the state he is in now, with all of the toys reminiscing fondly about their lost friend. Chibi Robo attempts to give him some of his own energy, but he malfunctions as he is also missing a leg. Chibi Robo grabs Giga's battery and locates the charger, setting it up in the Chibi House, where he eventually pays 10,000 moolah of his own money to charge it, with the charger going haywire and exploding, only leaving the battery left. One day, Miss Sanderson is worrying about finances when she asks you to check if Mr. Sanderson has been buying any secret toys lately, as he hasn't been working, but he's still been buying all of these things. You check up on him and indeed find a toy receipt, giving it to her, where she decides that she's had enough and locks herself in her room. When you enter the room, she gives you a letter to give to Mr. Sanderson that says that she feels like her family doesn't appreciate her as her husband keeps spending money they don't have without a job, as well as a daughter who wears a weird hat. The final piece mentions possible divorce plans if they can't work things out. From this point, Chibi Robo can buy the Chibi Radar, and he decides to use it outside on a weird symbol which summons aliens from outer space, but Chibi isn't able to understand them, with Telly asking Citrasoft if they have any software for how they speak, which they surprisingly do. Chibi Robo installing it and speaking to them the next night, where he learns they were asking to see their friend who they owe a debt to. He takes them to Giga Robo, where the aliens see that their friend is dead, getting incredibly sick due to the Earth air, and generally just being depressed. He decides to help them out, and they take him onto their spaceship, where he uses his blaster to open their beds. With all of them in the beds, a console comes down. Chibi Robo deciding to activate it amidst the aliens' pleas not to. You enter a pod with Telly and are seemingly teleported years into the past, at least 10 or over, as he sees the Sandersons playing with Giga Robo. He sees a suitcase encouraging the dog Tao to move from in front of by putting a bone in his bowl and seeing the combination. He also decides to take schematics that Mr. Sanderson had been working on. He teleports back to the future, where the aliens scold him. Up in the Sandersons' room, he locates the same suitcase and opens it, finding Giga Robo's lost leg, along with a bunch of ginormous spiders. The spiders take over the house, with the Sanderson family having a hideout in the living room that they barricade. Mr. Sanderson eventually reveals that he was the one who made the spiders to be friends of Chibi Robo when he worked at Citrasoft, but for some weird reason they wanted to make them evil, causing him to quit his job. He comes up with a plan to use the schematics to enhance Chibi's blaster, but doesn't know where he put them, for Chibi just hands the ones he found in the past to him. Mr. Sanderson has Chibi defend him while he runs up to his room to grab tools, coming back down and upgrading the blaster. Chibi goes and blasts all the spiders to bits, but hears screams coming from the living room. He rushes over to climb the Sandersons' web to the ceiling, coming into contact with the Queen Spider, who Chibi Robo blows away, receiving Giga Robo's leg and helping his family come back together in the strangest way possible. Chibi heads to the basement, giving Giga back his leg, but is stopped by a keypad on the bottom of his foot. He finds the code by finding Mr. Sanderson's wedding ring down the drain, as it has the date on the back of it of when they got married. Chibi enters the code and is able to put the battery back into Giga Robo, finally reviving the long-lost giant. He carries Chibi outside, where he calls down the aliens, who finally reveal what happened for them to know Giga in the first place. They were crash landing when Giga saved their lives. The aliens promised him 2 wishes. Giga used the first to bring the toys in the house to life. They did this by gifting an orb of light to him. Giga's second wish was for him and his fellow Giga Robos to have infinite energy in order for them to not be costing so much, because he blamed the Sandersons' financial troubles on himself. The aliens realized they could not grant this wish due to not having another orb of light, so they had to return to their planet and come back, taking 10 years. They have finally come back to fulfill their promise, gifting infinite energy to Giga Robo and Chibi Robo, who get to live immortally. This game is damn great. It toes the line between wholesome fun and talking about some depressing topics like death and divorce, even toys to make these situations a little light, but just as heartbreaking, and for some of the side stories, incredibly endearing. The wacky stuff like the aliens also give me a good laugh. I think the gameplay is extremely solid and fluid, besides just a few parts. The exploration aspect is amazing, of getting to explore this eccentric family's life, and the characters are the real lifeblood of the entire game. I kind of feel like it takes a feather from the Yakuza series, with the side missions being just as important to the main story, as it really lets the game shine through those great moments. Yakuza uses it as levity from the main story, but it sometimes blurs together a bit in a good way, and this game shares that aspect. Especially around 70% of the way through. Getting back to the flow, my entire time playing had me working on a task, while also working on some secondary stuff in the background, but it all ended up blending together really nicely. There was a very small amount of things that I felt like I had to go completely out of the way to do, mostly because when something came up, I planned around it, trying to make the most of every day and night. There were only 2 little extra bits that I didn't like, even since the first time I played the game. That is the Hot Rod and Space Scrambler, which I'm pretty sure a lot of other people are groaning at the same time as me. They're just way too precise and kind of feel out of place, especially since you can only try them 3 times a day, every half day. Like I mentioned, there are a lot of secondary missions which you don't have to do, though it helps everything flow better than just throwing trash away and waiting around, and the game isn't as cryptic as others with what you need to do to actually accomplish them, being fairly easy to figure out with some thought, though every so often you do have to stumble across things. One of the main things you'll start to get for completing these side missions is stickers, being technically achievements or trophies built into the game. They don't end up giving you anything besides a sense of accomplishment like Sony's or Microsoft's. Other things you can find are weird doors that you need to plug Chibi's plug into to open, taking some power, but this is the main way you'll be getting money throughout the game, so if you see one, try to get to it. Some you do need to get the ladders or bridges to actually reach though. The last thing is that there are 10 frog rings around the house that you can find. If you find all of them and give them to Jenny, she will take off her frog hat, mentioning before that she was cursed by an evil wizard to become a frog, someone having to collect the frog rings to save her. Sadly though, when you leave the room, she'll scatter them around again and put back on the hat, but if you find them again, she'll give you happy points, but they become pointless after you beat the game anyway, due to them auto making you the #1 Chibi Robo. This game is definitely a must-play if you like pretty relaxing slice-of-life games. I mean, there's some stuff that will catch you off guard, but that actually works towards the game's advantage. It does sadly cost an arm and a leg if you're trying to play legitly, but at this point I've owned both the American and Japanese versions, so I think sadly emulation is the only way to go now, unless they randomly decide to remaster this game out of nowhere. Hope you enjoyed, and see you next video.